Today we're going to replace the vacuum pump on a Ford Escape. Today we're working on a 2013 with a 1.6 liter, but if you're working on a 2 liter or a 2.5 liter of varying years, the procedure is going to be very straightforward, very similar. And so we've got a couple bolts here, maybe even a couple nuts and studs that are going to mount it to the engine or the cylinder head. And then we've got the vacuum line on the top here. Most engines provide enough vacuum to adequately provide braking assist. But with this being a smaller turbocharged engine, there's a requirement for a mechanical vacuum pump. If you think back to the days of some early diesels or big blocks, they had a mechanical hydraulic assist. Very similar here. We're going to have a vacuum pump driven off the back of the camshaft here, which is going to provide vacuum to assist with the power brakes. So I've removed the little cover off here. We can see we've got a gasket on here. And so this is a straightforward repair. There's a couple things we need to check before we install the new one to make sure the job doesn't go horrendously wrong. Now we see a lot of these come back, ironically, in the warranty pile because of lack of lubrication. What happens on these quite often is there's going to be an oil passageway in the cylinder head here, and it might get restricted or got low oil pressure or some other internal engine fault here, so we're not getting all the required oil to this particular pump. And so that's where it's very important that we carefully inspect the failed pump before installing the new one, and we also definitely want to verify that we've got engine oil present here so we do not damage the new pump, or even worse, cause complete engine failure. So one of the first things I'm going to do is release the line off the top here. So there's just two little pinch tabs. I can pinch those, and I'm going to kind of work this back and forth as I lift it up off of there. And so I can kind of set this aside. Now, in order to gain a little more access here, makes it easier to show, I'm going to remove part of the air duct work here. And so I've got some clips, I've got a couple clamps, and I'm going to pull those out of the way. It gives me better access to the bolts on the pump itself. All right, so now that I've got the air duct work out of the way, we can kind of see this a little bit better here. But I've got a couple nuts here holding a bracket in place. So I'm going to take my 10mm socket and a ratchet, and I'm going to remove both of these, and then that will allow me to get at the studs or the bolts which are retaining the vacuum pump in place. Alright, now that I've got the nuts and some of these brackets removed from some of these studs here, now I'm going to take an 8mm socket and my ratchet and remove the 3 studs. So there's one on either side and one below here. Some cases it might be helpful to actually have a mirror to take a look at this, but otherwise we just simply work by feel. Okay, so I've got all 3 of the studs out of there. Now my unit is loose. Might even just take a screwdriver here and give it just a little bit of pressure, kind of help wiggle it and pry it out. So you've got the gasket kind of coming here with it, and we can remove it from the vehicle. So now with the unit removed from the engine, you can take a look here on the bottom and you can see this screen. So this screen here is where the oil is going to come in and lubricate this thing. So remember, this is connected to the camshaft, so if the engine is rotating, this is going to be turning also. And so you can see as I rotate this here, it's actually pumping a little bit of oil. You can see we can pump some oil back out of here. So that's a good sign. That indicates that this unit has been lubricated properly, and so I'm not too worried about verifying my oil when I reinstall this thing. Obviously we want to have good clean oil in there, but also want to call out if you don't have oil in there. Or let's look through our warranty bin here. Look at some of these samples and you'll notice that they've been run dry. If we remove the cover on some of these, we can see there's obviously been no lubrication on this. And so that's a good indicator that there's an oil pressure problem in the engine itself. And so if you remove your old vacuum pump and it looks anything similar to this, we need to go further into the engine and do a deeper dive before installing a new vacuum pump. And so we need to make sure that this thing is completely well lubricated. If we look at the new one, we can see the intake there, and that's where the oil is going to be coming through. And so I'm not saying we need to go ahead and pre-lube this thing, but we've already verified there's good oil in the old one. And so we'll take a look in the passageway here, make sure it's looking good. Might wipe anything up that's spilled, but we're really ready to reinstall our new pump. All right, so I'm going to take my new pump. Now there is an alignment tab on the camshaft where this unit's going to sit. And so I want to kind of feel where it's oriented, and then I'm going to take my new unit and kind of align it here. Make sure everything's set in place properly rather than force it in. So we will kind of get it lined up here. Do a little bit of rotating, and it's all set in place now. Now I can take my studs, tighten them down properly. I will then reattach the brackets, reassemble the air cleaner here, and we're ready to go. Well, obviously I need to reconnect my vacuum line to the top here. May not be a bad idea to lubricate these O-rings a little bit too before snapping them on and potentially cutting them. Hopefully now you have a better understanding of what it takes to replace the vacuum pump on a Ford 1.6, 2 liter or 2.5 liter engine.